Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran, and in today's video we'll be taking a look at a new priest talent because it finally works. We'll also take a look at a couple more shadow priest changes that have happened recently, but primarily we are here to take a look at the brand new talent that is going to be most likely the single target talent to go to for priests. And it's called the Blizzard is continuing to iterate on shadow priests. I think the stuff they've done for them in Shadowlands beta so far has been absolutely beyond amazing. I'm a huge fan of what they've done, and this is going to be one of those things that actually replaces a talent that I really didn't enjoy playing with. Legacy of the Void. I feel like it's kind of a legacy playstyle, and I'll be perfectly happy to leave that one behind. Let's take a look at what the update details us today. So we are on PTR. We don't have access to some of the things like the new conduit that was added to priests that have to do with the Fey Covenant. I've actually recently, with the rerolls to the servers, got a priest up and running back into the Fey and tested out a little bit of the new Fey Covenant. The way that works right now is when you activate it, at least in the Shadow Priest, you get two fairies following you. One of them gives you damage reduction, the other, I believe, reduces the cooldowns of your major abilities. And then the other fairy will follow you like a Shadow Word Pain, and will just attach itself to enemies with Shadow Word Pain. Doing damage to those enemies, it'll make it generate sanity, and I think for Disc and Holy, it'll make it generate mana. The conduit allows you to have an extra fairy, so let's say you would have the offensive fairy follow the target with Shadow Word Pain, and if you put up a second Shadow Word Pain, the fairy will jump onto this target, but then the original target would have a lesser fairy on them that will do like 30% or 60% effectiveness, like a lesser effectiveness of a similar effect. So with the conduit you can have more fairies. I think it's just Blizzard trying to make the fairy playstyle a little bit better and allows the Disc Priest, for example, the Holy Priest or the Shadow Priest to have at least a little bit extra value to it. It's a very interesting playstyle with the Fae, very similar to that of a Paladin Blessings of Seasons. It's a very group utilitarian type of thing that still needs to be functional, where if you were to use it in solo content, you still have value. It definitely needs to be tested, but they did change that recently. Another change that I think most of you guys have seen already before is a change to the Devouring Plague. Devouring Plague can now ignite. So normally as a Shadow Priest, you will play your Priest, you will, let's say, put all the dots on the enemy, you would try to get your damage up and running, but you have enough sanity to generate a DP, you will drop a DP. And normally you wouldn't want to refresh DP until it's about gone, but oh my god, you're sitting on all this insanity, you really don't want to be, oh no, so much insanity, that's crazy, I guess I should just press the button. And what would happen with DPs, they just wouldn't really roll well into each other. So there's a mechanic in WoW called Pandemic, good portion of you guys already know what that is. But basically, if I have a Shadow Word Pain on the enemy, you can actually refresh the Shadow Word Pain at 4 seconds. Those 4 seconds would be added to the refresh duration of Shadow Word Pain. So a portion of the dot will roll into Shadow Word Pain. So is it about 3 seconds, 2 seconds? It'll actually roll those 2 seconds into a 16-second Shadow Word Pain. So this way you can kind of refresh your dots without losing the value of those dots. Devouring Plague worked kind of similarly, but it wouldn't really let you reroll too much of the Shadow Word Devouring Plague. I think it would let you reroll like the 1 second, so you could have, instead of 6-second DP, like a 7-second DP instead. So now as a priest, technically with a playstyle of like Damnation, for example, if you have 2 DPs stacking back to back into an enemy, it'll actually do damage equal to 2 DPs taken on the enemy every time it ticks, instead of the damage equivalent to 1 DP taken on an enemy. So you can kind of have like 2 stack DP in the way rolling together at once. And there's only opens up opportunity for Shadow Priest to have a little bit more burst compared to a single DP. So just to show you an example of damage, so one normal DP by itself, you hit it and it does dots of 594. So if you do 2 DPs at once, then you'll have yourself damage of ticks of 1 DP, second DP, what are we looking at now? 1,600 crit, what is it, 800 something, 848 non-crits. Okay, so it does roll into one another in some way. Or you could even do something crazy like 3 DPs in a row, and if you just generate a lot of sanity, you can just keep dumping DPs over and over and over, igniting it to a very powerful DP. So you can do 1, 2, and we'll add new fresh one with Damnation. So what is the damage over time now for this DP? It looks like it is 1,000 a tick, 1,200. So you can see it kind of rolls really hard into one another. So that's a really cool mechanic. It allows priests to have some mad burst if they want to, by dropping a bunch of DPs on an enemy. It's really cool and makes DP super easy to play with. So that was probably the biggest update the priests have gotten with this update. There is also one more talent that also changed, which is Void Torrent. Void Torrent, as you can read, while channeling, all your shadow damage over time effects are refreshed on the target. So if you were to have this playstyle of DPs rolling into each other, and you could have like the double DP on the enemy, imagine refreshing that double DP so it just continues rolling even further. Already can you see that will be really bursty and really straight up broken. So Blizzard actually wanted to change this talent and make it work very similar to Damnation. What Damnation does is it sets off a whole new DP on the enemy. So it'll put up VT, Pain, and a fresh Devouring Plague free of cost, 45-second cooldown. Void Torrent, on the other hand, is normally supposed to continue on and refresh your dots, which will be also DP. But when you press it right now, it refreshes your dots. It doesn't do anything for Devouring Plague. In the blue post, it is supposed to give you a fresh Devouring Plague in a very similar playstyle that Damnation would. The difference would be this is instant cast, no cost, you just put up all the dots, good to go. Void Torrent makes you want to kind of focus on a single target. It has a channel element, it has a damage over time element, and it generates sanity over its duration element. So it's like, if you really have the time to commit to stand still, it should refresh all your dots, and it is supposed to give you a free DP. Maybe Blizzard will change it in the next Wednesday update for the beta, but it is supposed to give you a fresh DP when you use this ability. Right now it doesn't do it, but it is supposed to. This week on the MPTR, apparently on beta, this is still broken last time I checked, is the new talent of Hungering Void. Hungering Void, the second Void Bolt cast on the same target will deal 25% more damage. Causes the target to receive 50% more damage from you until cancelled, and extend the duration of your Void form by 1 second. If your Void Bolt critically hits, your Void form is extended by 2 seconds instead. So this is kind of like the legacy of the Void, but instead of having to drain your sanity and Void Bolt refreshes your DP and gives you a longer duration, now the duration is going to be based off of an active ability, which is your Void Bolt. The more often you can hit Void Bolt, the longer you will be in duration. What's cool about this ability is not only will Void Bolt do more damage, it'll also apply a nasty debuff on the enemy, making them take 15% more damage from you until cancelled. And overall, I've seen an increase of Void form anywhere from, normally it's 15 seconds, I've had it anywhere near from 22 seconds to 26 seconds to something close to like 28 seconds. So you really could have a Void form out for quite a while with this new talent, especially if you go for a lot of haste, which will further reduce the cooldown of your Void Bolt, which I hope I can see it in that. Yeah, there it is. So you can see the green text next to this 1.5 second cooldown. The more haste you have, the lower that number is. So this number is affected, or haste affects this ability cooldown. And also crit. So I guess you would go for like a crit heavy or a crit portion playstyle with a bit of haste. But now you also have an interesting mastery to add in too. The refresher on your mastery, it got changed, I think a couple of weeks now ago. Your damage is increased by a set amount for each of your Shadow Word Pain, Vampiric Touch, and Devouring Plague on the target. So for every one of your dots, that's a mastery that increases your damage even further. So I have about, what, 14? So 14 times every single one of the dots times 3. That's quite a lot of damage increase on that one enemy. So you combine a somewhat of a decent mastery, a bit of haste in your playstyle to get a bunch of Void Bolts out, and now a 15% damage increase on top of all that. Now you have yourself a Shadow Priest with some real burst. This becomes a real cooldown, and primarily to be used on a boss, because you do have to keep hitting the same person with Void Bolt over and over. So it looks like the whole bottom row has become a little bit more set in stone for Shadow Priest. You have the single target talent, which will be used on bosses. Serenity Madness, which has opportunity for when ads come out, or if you need to cleave targets, but you know one of the targets will die, so you can kind of line up Serenity Madness so it doesn't just kill you. And then you have Ancient Madness, which gives you cleave capability in a very AoE heavy situation, or maybe it's Serenity Madness is better for the pure AoE situation, just so you can dump a bunch of DPs and you know the target will die. But Ancient Madness is also really good for that cleave because it gives you higher crit chance. That means you have a higher crit chance with your Mind Blast and with your Devouring Plague. Your Mind Blast and Devouring Plague have a 100% spawn in Apparition, and if those abilities crit, you spawn 2 Apparitions. Together with the talent of Auspicious Spirits, you really could do a lot of cleave. So now you have a Shadow Priest that's really actually coming together. So we're going to go for a full setup into a... Wait, I did the wrong thing. That's okay. We're just gonna get all the dots. We are prioritizing pressing Void Bolt as much as we can, because that's like the most important ability for us. Insta cast as soon as we can. Trying to get DPs up and running. Mind Blast again. We do have Void Form for just a little longer. And every time we press it, we do get it back a little faster. Ah, I lost it. But you see, the debuff lasts there for quite a while, actually. So the debuff actually stays for a little bit. Overall, with that burst, we had quite a bit of damage. We had Void Form at 23 seconds, which is a decent number than what I usually get, around the 22-second mark. Hunger and Void was there for 24 seconds, so it's just a little bit longer. If you can line up a Void Bolt right at the end of your Void Form, you will be able to get yourself just a little bit more value towards the end. So this combined together with some of the conduits we have, where we can get random procs for Void Bolts just randomly. If you can maybe get 2 of those back-to-back proc, I think you might be able to kind of dip into a little bit more of Hunger and Void. This will be tested once it actually works in the beta. This needs to be tested, but it has potential of interplay with the way the conduits work, with the way that the priest has been set up and made by devs so far. And I think it's a step in a really good direction when it comes to focus on pure single target. I really do like this change to this talent. I like the fact that Shadow Priests really do have some sort of burst setup right now. I'm a huge fan. I think it's a good change, and I'm kind of glad that Blizzard did it. I really am a huge fan of the full Void Eruption Void Form change in general, really. Gonna get more DPs in there, continuing to Void Bolt on cooldown. And it's a very short cooldown too, which is awesome. It's only 1.5 minutes CD with Void Bolt. And if you get a bunch of crits with this, then this will be awesome. If you can maybe stack crit or maybe a bunch of haste, I guess we'll have to wait and see what priests end up stacking. Nice crit there. One more? No, I couldn't get one more Void Eruption. But you can see Void Bolt actually did quite a bit of burst. We actually had 27-second Void Form just with those crits alone. One of my better Void Form setups just with crits. 30 seconds of Hungry Devourer, 15% more damage buff while that Mastery stacked up. So this is going to be really cool. I think this is awesome because, well, we got a couple things going on. We got finally a single target talent, which is awesome. The change to DP to be able to scale a lot of damage is awesome. The mastery change that works for Shadow Priest just fits so well into this playstyle. Just all these damage modifiers, and on top of it, 15% more damage, even stronger. I really do wonder how this might feel once the beta is basically over with all the balance tuning. Just how big of burst can Shadow Priest do? I don't think they're going to be anything like Fire Mages or BFA War, where they will all 100% crit big damage. But I do wonder what kind of burst they might be able to do going into the next expansion, and how the priest is going to evolve in future. But so far, this change, in my opinion, I think this is a good change. I'm very excited to test this out in beta once it finally does go functional, because it is technically live, but it's just the Void Bolt thing just doesn't interact in the beta, but it doesn't PTR. But it'd be kind of cool to test how it feels there with all the buffs. Overall, this is a really good change to priests. I am actually very impressed with what Blizzard has done with Shadow Priest this expansion. As in BFA, they really didn't feel like they had too much. I mean, bar power is what everybody relied on, priest in particular. So I'm glad that they're at least focusing on this spec and really trying to take it into a direction. As of this, I do agree with the directional play. I mean, I'm not a Shadow Priest main by any measure, and I don't claim to be one at all, but I really do like this playstyle. I felt like in Legion, the playstyle around the artifact weapon and the insanity was weird. Eventually I get used to it. In BFA, I felt like the continuation of that playstyle was weird, but eventually I made a priest and kind of more or less figured out how to play it. But this expansion, I'm actually very excited to get priests as one of the very first few casters up and running, just because they're so fun to play in their current state, or at least in the current playstyle, damage tuning and all that not included yet. But I'm actually very excited. This is really cool change. I'm a fan. And some of the damage you can put out with this debuff, it's quite a lot if you were to have best in slot set up in terms of stats. But it's really cool how you can play with stats now in order to make this build even stronger. Thank you guys so much for checking this video. Let me know what you think about this new Shadow Priest talent. I'm obviously really excited for it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see all of you in the next one.